I found a girl during a famine. But 300 years later, in the Holy War, she pierced my heart as the Demon Queen. She stepped on my dying body like a dog. Ethan Vance, when you framed me, did you ever see this coming? But she didn't know I chose to die by her hands. I made a deal with the system, finished the mission, and I returned to Earth. For this, I stole the divine sword 300 years ago, betrayed the sect, and became a supreme lord. While she was locked in the dungeon, suffering a fate worse than death. Otherwise, with my power, how could I not dodge a strike from the girl I raised? Standing before me is the only demon queen in this world. Chloe Winters, my former junior sister. Feeling my life slip away, I could only smile bitterly. Was it really worth it? She said nothing. She just pulled the doomblade out of my body. Blood splattered across her face. She kicked me to the ground, looking down at me. Those once clear eyes were now like thousand-year ice. But deep within that ice, there was a faint, almost unnoticeable tremble. Ethan Vance, any last words? I opened my mouth, but it was full of blood. The system's mission was to die by her sword. I couldn't say anything that might shake her resolve. Or the mission fails and I can't go back to Earth. So I stayed quiet. She squatted down, her slender fingers gripping my chin. She forced my face toward hers, making me look into her eyes. Ethan Vance, I'll ask you one last time. Her face was full of killing intent, but her voice trembled. Are you really not going to say anything? I knew exactly what she wanted to hear. She wanted an apology. She wanted me to admit my betrayal was wrong. She wanted to hear me say that my care back then was real, that the warmth wasn't fake, that saving her from the abyss of death wasn't for some hidden agenda. I looked into her eyes and forced a smile uglier than crying. A long silence. She waited for a long time. Finally, her expression turned completely cold. Fine. If you won't speak, then stay silent forever. I looked at my blood on the sword tip. Time seemed to rewind. It was an era of blizzards. Mountains froze and rivers stopped flowing. Countless low-level cultivators and mortals froze to death. In this endless winter, frozen corpses littered the roadsides. In the face of such a catastrophe, everyone was fending for themselves. Back then, I had just crossed over to this world less than 3 days ago. Guided by the system, I found a collapsing thatched hut by the village road. The moment I pushed the door open, I saw her, a tiny figure, huddled in the corner, wrapped in a torn sackcloth. She was so small I could pick her up with one hand. Covered in frostbite and scars, her breath was barely noticeable. When I squatted down and pulled her into my arms, she was as light as a dead leaf. Don't be afraid. I'm taking you with me. The little girl didn't react, but her hand did. The moment I picked her up, she instinctively grabbed my shirt, gripping it tight, like a drowning person catching their last lifeline. Later, I learned about her past. Her name was Chloe Winters. She was born without a mother, and the villagers kicked her out. A 5-year-old child in this bottom-tier world crueler than the cultivation realm. Fighting wild dogs for food every day. Sleeping in haystacks by the road. I don't know how she survived until the day I showed up. Maybe God just wanted her to suffer a bit more. To feed her, I joined the Celestial Order as an outer sect servant. Sweeping, chopping wood, carrying spirit stones, cleaning furnaces, and feeding spirit beasts. I did everything, working 24 hours a day, doing nothing but sleeping and working. The pay was pitifully low, barely enough for coarse grain and cloth. But Chloe grew up. From 5 to 10 years old. From 10 to 15, she became a beautiful young woman. She was highly talented, much stronger than me. An elder took a liking to me, promoting me from servant to outer disciple. And 10 years later, I entered the inner sect. She followed me into the Celestial Order and became my junior sister. Those days were the best times I had. In my 300 years in this world, my thoughts were pulled back to reality. The doomblade slashed down. But at the last moment I noticed a detail. Her hand holding the sword was shaking. The moment the doomblade pierced my body, her eyes went blank for a split second. But the next moment they returned to being ruthless. My body began to fade away on this blood-stained battlefield. Behind me were only the screams of the righteous army being slaughtered by demons. Before losing my sight, the last thing I saw was her back. So lonely, just like 300 years ago. That junior sister who stood on Winterspire Peak, waiting for me for a whole day and night. I'm sorry. I still couldn't say those words in the end. Time rewinds to 300 years ago. My 3rd year in the inner sect of the Celestial Order. Back then, my cultivation had reached the late golden core stage. I was considered top tier among my peers. But Chloe was even faster. She joined later, but her talent crushed everyone. In just a few years, she reached the peak golden core stage on the verge of the nascent soul stage. The whole sect called her a once-in-a-century genius. I was secretly thrilled, though I still kept up the dignified look of a senior brother. Inside, I was so proud. That was the little girl I raised. During that time, Chloe was assigned to the sect's treasure pavilion as a guard. It was a sign of the sect's trust and high regard for her. New mission: steal the Celestial Order's ultimate treasure, the Rainblade. Details: ally with demonic forces to cause chaos and steal the divine sword. This sword is essential for the host's late-stage cultivation. Reward: instant upgrade to peak nascent soul stage, plus the divine tier chaos codex. Penalty: refusal means permanent exile from Earth. Are you kidding me? I'm an inner disciple of the Celestial Order, Chloe's senior brother. You want me to be a traitor? System: I refuse. Refusal will permanently lock your crossover state. You will never return to Earth. Reminder: your guardian on Earth, Miss Sarah Vance, is highly mentally unstable due to your disappearance. She is currently putting up missing person posters everywhere. Projected an image into my mind. My aunt stood on the street, her haggard face covered in tears, holding a stack of missing person posters with my photo. She pasted them one by one in the snow, her hands freezing red, crying as she worked. At that moment I froze. My aunt was my only family. She was less than 10 years older than me. But after my parents died in a car crash, she raised me all by herself. She never married or had kids. She poured her heart and soul into me. She worked 2 jobs for my tuition, cooked and did my laundry, staying up all night when I was sick. She wasn't my mom, but she did more than a mom ever could. And I ended up in this hellhole, gone for decades, though time flows differently on Earth. But the system said a long time had passed there. Aunt Sarah must think I'm dead. She must think her only family just vanished from the world. I closed my eyes, blood rushing through me. A long time later, I opened my eyes. I accept. But I never thought those words would push Chloe into the abyss. To make sure the plan was flawless, I set everything up perfectly. Those demons already wanted the Celestial Order's treasure. I offered to be their inside man, and they gladly accepted. The only problem was Chloe. She guarded the treasure pavilion. If she was there, with her strength and sharp senses, the demons couldn't get in. I had to lure her away, so I wrote a letter. It read, "Chloe, I found a rare frostweed on Winterspire Peak. It'll help your breakthrough. I'm tied up with work today. Go wait for me there. I'll be there before dark." I knew she would go, because if there was one person she trusted completely, it was me. After all, I carried her out of the freezing snow. I named her, taught her to read, write, and cultivate. I sat by her bed when she woke up from nightmares, telling her over and over, "I'm here. Don't be afraid." How could she not trust me? The letter had one more line. "Chloe, I have a surprise for you." That day, she went to Winterspire Peak, wearing the light blue dress I gave her. She only wore it when she was happiest. But she waited at the peak all day, from sunrise to sunset, until the snow fell and the sky grew dark. She never saw the man she was waiting for. Instead, the sect's enforcers arrived and brought news. Ethan Vance, allied with the demons, stole the sect's ultimate treasure, the Rainblade, and betrayed the Celestial Order. Chloe Winters, as a guard, you abandoned your post. You're an accomplice. You and Ethan were close. You must have planned this together. Don't be fooled by her innocent look. She was probably sleeping with him all along. Everyone turned on her. She explained, but no one believed her. Everyone accused her of being a traitor. The sect locked her up and tortured her brutally. In that dark, damp dungeon, her bones were broken. She was poisoned and subjected to forbidden soul-searching arts. But she still believed in me. During those nights of torture, she hoped to see the man who was her light. But in the end, no one came to save her. While I, the culprit, was thousands of miles away, using the Rainblade I took from the demons to crazily boost my power. Once I got the sword, I turned around and killed all those demons. The system was pleased. In the 3rd year of Chloe's imprisonment, she disappeared, vanished from the dungeon. The sect searched everywhere but couldn't find her. No one knew where she went, or if she was dead or alive. Until 300 years later, the realm saw its first ever female demon queen at the Supreme Lord stage. And her name was Chloe Winters. She was ruthless. The first thing she did was slaughter the Celestial Order. Tens of thousands dead, no survivors. Then, she came for me. By then, with the system's help, I had also reached the Supreme Lord stage and founded my own sect, becoming the only Supreme Lord of the righteous army. Good and evil stood divided. We faced off on the battlefield, separated by thousands of troops, separated by a sea of blood and hatred. After 300 years, she had grown up. The little girl who used to chase me around the yard had become a demon queen, covered in dark energy, face cold as frost. Beneath her 300 years of hatred and killing intent, I could still recognize those eyes. The ones I saw when I picked her up in the blizzard. The eyes that looked at me when she first opened them. I realized I hadn't completely faded away. To be exact, the system didn't send me away immediately. It gave me one last hour to say goodbye to this world. Final mission completed. Host soul needs time to stabilize, granting 1 hour of free time. Host will return to Earth in 1 hour. Host will exist as a remnant soul. Cannot interact with any living beings. I floated in mid-air, like a transparent bystander, trapped in my last hour in this world. The holy war ended. The righteous army suffered a crushing defeat. Most righteous cultivators were killed. The rest either surrendered or fled. Chloe left the battlefield alone, riding the wind. But she only went to one place, Winterspire Peak, the ruins of the Celestial Order. The once majestic sect was now a ruin after her bloodbath. Weeds grew among the broken walls. The once ethereal place was now dead silent. She stood by the cliff. Below was a bottomless abyss with rolling fog. By the cliff stood an old pine tree, its branches strong like a dragon, needles vibrant green. In this ruin, it was the only living thing left, because she and I planted this tree together. It was her first year in the Celestial Order. Winter just passed, spring snow melting. She found a pine cone on the mountain, ran to me with bright eyes and said, "Let's plant a tree." I asked her why. "You said. Pine trees are the toughest. Snow can't crush them. Lightning can't strike them down. I want to be as strong as a pine tree." Okay. So we dug a hole by the cliff on Winterspire Peak. Buried the pine cone. She watered it very seriously and took out a red string from her pocket. Tied it to a rock nearby, calling it a wishing string. I asked what she wished for. She put her hands behind her back, blushing slightly. "Not telling you." Then she whispered something, so quietly I could barely hear it. "I wish you would never leave me. When I grow up, I'll marry you." 300 years later, the pine cone grew into a giant tree. But the two who planted it, one became a world-destroying demon queen. The other became a fading remnant soul. I watched Chloe stand before that pine tree. She reached out her hand, gently touching the rough trunk. Then she slowly squatted down, squatting by the roots. Hugging her knees, heavy tears rolled down her cheeks, dripping onto the dead leaves. For 300 years, Demon Queen Chloe Winters never shed a tear before anyone. She didn't cry when her spirit and bones were torn out in the Celestial Order's dungeon. She didn't cry when she slaughtered the sect. She didn't cry when she killed me. But now, facing this silent old pine, she cried like a child. Just like when she was 5, huddled in that thatched hut, crying because no one was coming for her. I stood behind her, reaching out to pat her head, but my hand passed right through her hair. I couldn't touch anything. "Ethan Vance, you lied to me." My remnant soul spoke silently behind her. "I'm sorry, Chloe." But she couldn't hear it. No one could. I wanted to hug her so badly, to hold her in my arms like when she was little, to tell her over and over, "I'm here, don't be afraid." But I wasn't her senior brother anymore. I was just a fading soul. An hour passed quickly. My soul grew more transparent. It was time to go. Before fading away completely, I took one last look at her, still squatting there, hugging her knees, like a wounded little beast, huddled under the old pine that held her most precious memories. Goodbye, Chloe. My consciousness sank into endless darkness. But Chloe's story didn't end under that pine tree, in a place I didn't know, in a timeline I couldn't see. She cried on Winterspire Peak for a long time, from dusk till midnight, and from midnight till dawn. After crying, she stood up, wiped her tears, and walked down the mountain. She went to the demon sect and summoned an elder. This elder was one of those who saved her from the dungeon back then. Chloe always thought her escape was because this elder saved her for some hidden agenda. But today she decided to ask, because one doubt always bothered her. Why did Ethan ally with the demons to steal the sword? And why was she coincidentally saved by the demons later? It was too coincidental. It didn't feel like a coincidence. When the elder was brought before Chloe, her face changed. Chloe noticed. With her supreme lord senses, the elder's sudden heartbeat spike couldn't hide from her. "I'm asking you one thing. 300 years ago, who ordered you to save me from the dungeon?" "To answer, your majesty." "It was my own decision, seeing your great talent." "Liar." The elder fell to her knees, shaking like a leaf. Her little tricks couldn't fool Chloe's eyes. She gave her no chance to argue. Her supreme Lord Spirit directly crushed the Elder's soul defense, plunging straight into her deepest memories. Soul-searching, the Elder's memories unfolded like a book. She saw everything. She saw a young man in white using his soul blood, drop by drop forming a restriction array, forcibly overriding the Elder's mind, turning her into an obedient puppet. That young man's face was too familiar. Ethan Vance. She saw Ethan use this puppet to plan a perfect jailbreak. Timing, routes, shift changes, every detail was calculated to the extreme. She saw even more, way more than she imagined. She saw Ethan at the nascent soul stage, fighting way above his level, battling a peak deity stage ancient beast for 3 days and nights. In the vision, he was covered in blood, 6 broken ribs, his left arm almost torn off. Blood from his forehead covered his face. He could barely open his eyes, but he still got up. Again and again. Every time the beast swatted him away, he gritted his teeth and crawled out of the rubble, holding the rain blade, standing up unsteadily, like an unkillable roach that wouldn't stay down. The beast roared furiously at him, but Ethan just spat out blood, and actually forced a smile. Is that all you got? She's still inside. If I don't finish you, she'll spot me. She? Who was she? Chloe's nails dug into her palms. Of course she knew who. It was her, trapped deep in the ruins. The visions kept rolling. She saw Ethan collapse from exhaustion after killing the beast, lying in a pool of blood, unconscious for half a day. The first thing he did upon waking was order the puppet to clean up the scene, leaving no trace. She saw other things too. That time she was ambushed in a secret realm. Ethan sneaked in 3 days early and destroyed the ambush array's core with his energy, turning that deadly trap into a false alarm. That ancient demonic manual she found by chance took Ethan 2 years, risking his life to get it from a forbidden zone. Then he had the puppet place it right on her path. During her inner demon trial when advancing to the deity stage, Ethan sent his spirit clone into her mindscape to take the most fatal strike for her. The cost was deepening cracks in his own soul, almost dying on the spot. Scene after scene. 300 years. A full 300 years. He guarded her in the dark for 300 years. Every time she thought she had heaven's luck, every time she thought she survived a crisis through her own hard work, every time she thought fate finally smiled upon her, it was all him. It was all Ethan Vance. The man she hated and cursed for 300 years. The man she swore to kill with her own hands. Was always paving the way for her with his blood and life, out of sight. Chloe pulled out of the Elder's soul memories. Her vision blurred. The tears couldn't be stopped anymore. The visions weren't over. The final scene. She saw the final holy war again. She saw her doomblade pierce Ethan's chest. Both were at the Supreme Lord stage. With Ethan's power, he could have easily blocked that strike. But he didn't dodge. It was like he threw himself onto it. Even the moment the sword tip pierced him, she clearly saw the curve of his lips. He was smiling, not mocking, not bitter. It was relief, like finally dropping a heavy burden, like saying, "It's finally over." Chloe fell to her knees like a puppet with cut strings. She covered her face with her hands. Her nails dug into her skin. Blood dripped from her fingers, but she felt no pain. The pain in her heart swallowed all her senses. Trembling, she pulled something from her bag, the rain blade, the trophy she took from Ethan. After Ethan faded, the sword fell on the battlefield. And she picked it up. She thought it was just a weapon, a symbol of betrayal. But now the seal on it was gone, because the one who cast it was dead. With the seal gone, a faint voice echoed from the sword, weak as a flickering candle in the wind. But she heard it clearly. "Well done, Chloe. This is my destiny." It was Ethan's voice, hoarse and weak, yet carrying that familiar warmth. "I'm leaving, going somewhere far away. After I'm gone. Take good care of yourself. You have to walk your own path now. I'm sorry, Chloe. I made you suffer." The voice faded. The sword fell silent. Chloe dropped to her knees, hugging the rain blade like the most precious thing in the world. She cried, her whole body shaking, sobbing uncontrollably. 300 years. She finally heard the apology she waited 300 years for. But the man who said it was gone. "Ethan, why didn't you tell me earlier?" "I don't want an apology. I want you. Come back. Please come back." But no one answered. The cold wind howled over the ruins. The old pine's branches rustled in the wind, as if whispering for someone, "Don't cry, Chloe." Meanwhile, my eyes snapped open. A dim ceiling above me. My body felt heavy as lead. I instinctively checked my energy, but my core was empty. My veins were like dry riverbeds. Not a single trace of energy. I had become immortal. But as I tried to move, I found my muscle strength and bone density were still there. My physical training remained. 300 years of body tempering wasn't gone. The weirdest part was I could faintly feel Earth now had the same spiritual energy as the cultivation realm. Though very weak, I got out of bed and almost tripped. Everything looked so unreal. This was a rented room, about 100 square feet. But not the room I knew. Pink doodles on the wall, a row of skincare products on the desk, pink bedsheets, a teddy bear on the windowsill. This was a girl's room. The place I rented before crossing over wasn't mine anymore. The landlord probably took it back and rented it out. I looked out the window. Tall buildings, busy traffic. It was Earth. I was really back. A huge wave of emotion hit me. 300 years. I struggled in that damn cultivation world for 307 years. From an 18-year-old kid to a supreme lord. Then to a corpse pierced by a demon sword. Now I'm finally back. I looked around and saw a phone on the nightstand. The date on the screen stunned me. 3 years. 3 years had passed on Earth. My mind was quiet. The noisy system was gone too. I was about to leave, grabbing a tissue to wipe my face. Suddenly, the bathroom door opened. Steam rolled out. Then came a figure wrapped in a towel. Wet pink hair resting on her shoulders. Pretty face emerged from the mist. She was drying her hair, looking sleepy. Then she saw me. We stared at each other for about 3 seconds. Her scream almost burst my eardrums. She backed away, screaming, gripping her towel with one hand, grabbing a shampoo bottle with the other. She threw it at me. Pervert. Creep. How did you get in? Get out. The bottle hit my forehead dead on. I stumbled from the pain. Wait. I'm not a pervert. I can explain. Explain my ass. I'm calling the cops. She actually pulled out her phone. A neighbor started banging on the door. What's going on in there? Should I call the cops? Crap. I can't explain this. If I stay, I'll be arrested as a creep. I turned, pushed the window open, and jumped out. This was the 3rd floor. About 30 feet high. A normal person would die or get crippled. But I landed with bent knees, feet planted firmly on the ground. Not even a flinch. My physical training was indeed still there. 300 years of supreme lord body tempering wasn't for nothing. I didn't look back. I just ran. The wind hit my face, carrying Earth's unique car exhaust, and city dust. Smelled bad, but felt like home. I ran for over 10 minutes. Once safe, I stopped, bending over to catch my breath. On a street billboard, played news I couldn't understand. People hurried by. Most looked tense and on guard. This wasn't normal. I remember the street used to be full of people just strolling around. But no time for that now, because I saw something. A yellowed paper on a pole, weathered by the sun and rain. The edges were curled, colors faded, but I could still read it. My photo was right in the middle. Below it read, "Missing person." Under that was a line of handwriting. It was messy. The person writing it must have been shaking. "Ethan, Aunt Sarah is looking for you. Please call." Followed by a phone number. Signed, Sarah Vance. I squatted by the pole, staring at that paper for a long time. So long that a passing lady gave me a weird look. "Aunt Sarah, I'm back. I'm finally back." I ran toward home from memory. Her neighborhood wasn't far. About 3 bus stops away. I used to walk this route to school every day. I could walk it with my eyes closed. When I reached the gate, my heart was beating so fast, it almost jumped out of my throat. I went up the stairs and stood before that familiar door. I took a deep breath and knocked. A strange man in his 40s opened it. "Who are you looking for?" "I used to live here." "Where's the previous tenant?" "A woman around 30. "Oh, the last tenant? She moved out long ago. About 2 years ago. I rented it after her." "Do you know where she went?" "No idea. I signed with the landlord. Never met her." The door closed. I stood in the hallway stunned. "Don't panic. I have the number. The number on the missing poster." I went back and knocked again. "What now?" He looked annoyed. "I'm sorry. Can I borrow your phone? Just one quick call." He hesitated. Seeing my anxious face, he handed it over. I dialed the number. "The number you dialed is out of service." I dialed again. "The number is out of service." I was frantic. I headed to the police station to check the residency records. With her ID, I could track her down. But halfway there, the sky changed. Not just getting cloudy. A bizarre black mist suddenly appeared, spreading like ink across the blue sky, incredibly fast. Then, people started screaming and running. "Monsters! Run! Another spatial rift! To the subway! Underground is safe." I stood on the street, watching the frantic crowd, watching them flee, completely confused. Monsters? Rifts? This is Earth. Since when did Earth have monsters? But a second later I understood. A rift tore open in the black mist. It wasn't huge, but big enough for a two-story tiger-like monster to crawl out. It was covered in pitch-black, armor-like scales. Its eyes glowed eerie green, thick drool dripping from its massive fangs. I sensed its energy. Below Golden Core, probably peak foundation stage. But to normal people on Earth, this was a doomsday-level monster. It lunged at the fleeing crowd. I spotted 3 young people. 2 guys and a girl, early 20s. They were the slowest. They didn't even have time to look back. The monster's giant claw slammed down. Blood sprayed. 3 young lives vanished right before my eyes. Not even bones left. I clenched my fists trying to channel my energy. Nothing. I couldn't even reach the chi condensation stage. But their brutal deaths were right there. I'd be next. Power or not, I used to be a supreme lord. I charged forward. 300 years of combat instincts made me leap up. I punched the monster's neck. A dull thud followed. A massive recoil shot up my arm, making it completely numb. But the monster actually stumbled back 2 steps. It let out an angry roar. Its green eyes locked onto me, like it couldn't believe a mortal heard it. I was surprised too. Even without power, this body strength was way beyond my expectations. My physical training was barely there, but a Supreme Lord's body is no joke. The monster lunged again. I dodged and grabbed something from the rubble. An exposed rebar, about 4 feet long and arm thick. I yanked it out. I had no spiritual energy to infuse it with, but I had something else. Soul power is different. Comes from the spirit. Though my cultivation was 0, my Supreme Lord Spirit framework remained. The residual soul power was still there. I infused it into the rebar. A piece of ordinary scrap, in my hands, turned into a faintly glowing weapon. The monster sensed danger and roared furiously. But just as I was about to strike, a howling wind came from behind. Formation. Tactical Encirclement 3. A group in black uniforms swarmed from both sides, highly trained. I was surprised to find they had faint spiritual energy. About foundation stage, the person at the front had pink hair in a high ponytail wearing a tactical uniform. Her pretty face was full of seriousness and ferocity. It was the girl from the rented room. No, right now, she looked like a cheetah ready to tear its prey apart. Light purple energy gathered in her hands. Peak foundation stage. We must stop this beast here. The citizens' lives depend on us. At her command, over a dozen agents released their energy. They formed an array, weaving an energy net that trapped the monster. A bitter fight. Some were injured, some were swatted away. But ultimately, under her command, they killed the monster. The monster's corpse crashed down, kicking up dust. The girl panted heavily, her forehead covered in sweat. Then, while clearing the scene, she saw me in the crowd, still holding that glowing rebar. Our eyes met. Her face went from pale to red, then pale again, probably remembering being seen naked by a stranger right out of the shower. Without a word, she rushed over and grabbed my collar. Take him away. Get him in the van. Wait. I can explain. Shut up. Move. Just like that, I was shoved into a black van. From them, I learned they belonged to the official Demon Control Bureau. 3 years ago, the moment I crossed over, Earth suddenly experienced a spiritual awakening. The energy density surged dozens of times over the next few months. A few humans awakened, gaining superpowers. The government ranked them by strength. Rank B, rank A: soldier, general, commander, king, emperor. Currently, the highest known rank on Earth is emperor. Rumor has it there are only a few worldwide. And that pink-haired girl, Harper, is the captain of the Bay City Bureau. A peak general rank awakened. She's top tier in the city. But the awakening also brought side effects. Spatial rifts occasionally appear in the sky, dropping mutated monsters. These monsters feed on spiritual energy and hunt humans, bringing massive disasters to Earth. And the Bureau was formed to deal with this. So, who exactly are you? Harper sat across from me, arms crossed, eyes wary. I used a cover story. I used to rent that room. 3 years ago, I was inexplicably teleported somewhere else. I only got back yesterday and found you living in my place. I really didn't mean to. She clearly didn't buy it, but didn't argue. Teleported? You mean you're an awakened too? Not really. I have no energy. That was the truth. I really had no spiritual energy right now. Then how did you survive that monster just now? That was a commander-level threat. I guess I'm just physically fit. Harper stared at me for a long time. Her intuition told her this man wasn't simple, but she really couldn't detect any energy from me. Eventually, she stopped pressing. Fine, I'll let this go for now. But you said you lost contact with your family? Yes, my aunt, Sarah Vance. 3 years ago, she lived in the Old South District. Now she's moved, and her phone is out of service. Can you help me find her? I can try. Due to monster attacks these past years, many are missing or dead. The government has a tracking system, but I can't guarantee anything. Thank you. She glanced at me, seeming to want to say something, but ultimately just scoffed and turned to look out the window, probably still mad about the room. I silently apologized in my head. Harper didn't report my existence, which surprised me a bit. Later she explained that in recent years some awakened, just wanted normal lives and refused to be registered or drafted. Though she was a bureau captain, she understood that mindset. Besides, even if I was a threat to the city, as a peak general, she was confident she could handle me. If she knew I was a supreme lord in another world, she probably wouldn't be so confident. But I didn't plan on telling her. Drawing official attention now would only cause trouble. And I just wanted to find my aunt. Harper had someone set me up in a budget hotel and got me a new phone and number. I stared at the brand new phone, feeling like a lifetime had passed. I hadn't touched electronics like this in 300 years. The last time I used a phone was before I crossed over. That night, I ordered fried chicken and Coke, ready for a game of Delta Force and some bridge camping. Then that damn light swept me away to the cultivation world. Didn't get to eat the chicken or play the game. 300 years passed in a flash. Sitting on this hard hotel bed, it suddenly felt unreal. I checked the news. The screen was full of monster invasions, spiritual awakenings and awakened ones. This world has changed too much. Earth 3 years ago was just an ordinary tech-driven planet. Now it's a weird mix of cultivation and apocalypse. I turned off the phone and lay down. Exhausted, I fell fast asleep. Then I had a dream. I saw Chloe. She stood on a peak piercing the clouds, the summit of the demon realm, her center of power, the apex of the empire she built. The night was pitch black, the galaxy dazzling, but the starlight on her white hair made her face look even paler. She stood there alone. No subordinates, no servants. Nothing at all. I noticed she was holding something. The rain blade. She gripped it tight, like holding on to an obsession. Then she lowered her head. Tears fell one by one. Finally, she seemed to whisper something. My ringtone woke me up. Harper's voice came through. Ethan. Her voice sounded unnatural, breaking up, like she was choosing her words. I found her. Yeah, I found her. Your aunt moved to Westbridge 2 years ago. Westbridge. Westbridge was massively invaded by monsters a year ago. The whole city fell. It's now an official S-class restricted zone. Overrun by giant monsters. Comms are down. No survivor signals. Is she still alive? No record of her survival, but no confirmed death either. But honestly, the chances are low. I'm sorry. My hand holding the phone trembled. Aunt Sarah, I fought for 300 years in the cultivation world just to see you again. But I'm back now. Where are you? I put the phone down and sat there. Didn't move for a long time. Memories flooded back. When I was sick as a kid, she carried me across a dozen streets to find an open clinic. Her clothes were soaked in sweat. Her arms holding me were shaking. Back then, she was only 17 or 18, but as stubborn as an adult. After school, she'd always wait for me at the gate on time, holding my favorite roasted chestnuts. In winter, she'd warm my bed with a hot water bottle before I slept, saying I couldn't sleep well if it was cold. The year of my college entrance exam, she waited outside all day, skipping lunch. She never complained about being tired or having it hard. I knew how hard it was for her to raise me alone, an unmarried woman, raising a child that wasn't hers. She gave her best years to me. Piercing siren came from outside. An emergency alert popped up on my phone. Monster invasion alert. Citizens, proceed to underground shelters immediately. Again. Monsters again. But I didn't hide. Those survival instincts, rational judgments, and the will to live were all overwhelmed by a more primal, violent emotion. Anger. 300 years. For 300 years, I endured humiliation, betrayed everyone by any means, just to come back. But now that my family is gone. My home is gone. Everything is gone, leaving only a world full of monsters and ruins. I stood up and walked to the window. Cold wind blew in, carrying the sounds of distant explosions and screams. The ground was over 60 feet below. The hotel was on a high floor. I stood on the windowsill. Below was a chaotic street. Monsters were chasing the fleeing crowd. But at that moment, I suddenly felt something strange. Something surging inside me, like a river asleep for a long time, finally thawing. A thread-like spiritual energy was automatically flowing into my body from the surroundings. A glimmer of water appeared on the dry riverbed of my core. Not much, but it was there. Chi condensation stage. Just one day. When I came back yesterday, my body was purely mortal. Today, it started absorbing energy automatically. It's like my old cultivation is recovering bit by bit. The Supreme Lord Core Vessel is still there. The old cultivation paths and insights are still there. Now it's just refilling with water. Way faster than normal people. Though Chi condensation energy is negligible, combined with my 300 years of insight and technique, it's enough. I leaped from the high floor. The moment I landed, energy circulated in my legs, absorbing the impact. Right in front of me was the monster pack chasing citizens. Dozens of wolf-like monsters the size of calves. Foundation stage level. Just foundation stage level. I formed a transparent, almost illusory energy sword. Using Chi condensation energy for a Supreme Lord sword art felt like a pony pulling a heavy cart. But the gap in technique and insight was enough to bridge the power difference. As I struck, a silver-white sword aura slashed through the night sky, curved beautifully like a crescent moon. Slash! The aura swept through the dozens of wolf monsters ahead. They all froze, then split apart simultaneously. Dozens of monster corpses crashed down, wiped out in one strike. A few citizens by the road who hadn't made it to the subway saw this and stood there dumbfounded. Jaws dropped wide enough to fit a whole apple. One guy even forgot he was running for his life, tripped, and ate dirt. But I didn't stop. More monsters poured out of the sky rifts. Wolves, snakes, eagles. Various kinds, mostly at the foundation stage. I charged at them like a madman. With every monster I killed, I devoured their spirit souls. The energy within those souls flooded into my core, filling that massive vessel. My cultivation skyrocketed. It felt like a desert dry for a century suddenly getting a rainstorm. Every inch of my veins greedily absorbed the energy. I don't know how many I killed. I only know that by the end of the night, my cultivation stabilized at peak foundation stage. My clothes were soaked in monster blood, mixed with blood from my own wounds. But my eyes burned with fire. And Sarah, wait for me. No matter where you are, I will find you. Over the next few weeks, I hunted monsters at a crazy pace. Hunting on the city outskirts by day, cultivating in empty ruins by night. My cultivation kept climbing. Early, mid, and peak golden core stage. Every breakthrough was incredibly smooth, like walking a familiar path. Walking it a second time, every step was flawless. By the end of week 3, I reached peak golden core, touching the threshold of the nascent soul stage, equivalent to a tier 10 commander awakened on Earth. I avoided the bureau, didn't want any trouble, but the inevitable happened. That evening, the sky over Bay City tore open again. But this rift was bigger than ever. Big enough to swallow a football field. Black mist churned like a boiling sea of ink. An unprecedented demonic aura surged from the rift. Even 2 miles away, I felt that chilling pressure. Nascent soul? No, more than that. Peak nascent soul bordering on the deity stage. A behemoth crawled out. A giant python. Pitch black as ink. Scales reflecting an eerie purple in the twilight. Thick as a city sewer pipe. So long you couldn't see its tail. At least 300 feet. Coiled above Bay City. When it flicked its tongue, the temperature dropped for miles. The most terrifying part? It spoke. The human scent here is strong. Excellent. Speaking human language. It had sentience. This was a true greater demon. And behind it followed countless lesser monsters. The Bureau mobilized. Not just Harper's Bay City branch. HQ even sent a commander rank awakened as backup. Ryder. Ryder was young, but his deep eyes showed he'd seen many battles. He radiated a metallic spiritual energy. His power formed a massive flaming blade. He could even release spiritual pressure. Peak commander equal to peak golden core. But against this abyssal serpent, he barely held on. They fought for less than 10 minutes. Ryder was swatted by its tail, shooting off like a cannonball. Crashing through 3 buildings before stopping. Spitting blood, he knelt in the rubble. Face pale. He was a commander, but like paper before a nascent soul demon. The rest of the Bureau fared worse. Over 100 awakened died on the spot. Some were snapped in half by the serpent. Countless more were critically injured. Where's HQ's backup? Damn it. This is a suicide mission. Where are the medics? Mia can't hold on. A blonde young man cried, covering the wound of the girl in his arms. They were all Bay City Bureau enforcers. That blood-soaked girl was also his lover. Captain, the medical team, they're all dead. It wasn't just fear. It was despair. This isn't commander level. It's king level. Against this power, we're just throwing our lives away. Captain, should we retreat? The young man wiped his tears, his face turning resolute. He shakily pulled out a lighter and lit a cigarette. Take Mia and fall back. Keep her safe. Captain, are you crazy? The other teams are still fighting. Behind us are millions of Bay City citizens. Millions of people. If we retreat, what happens to them? The rest of you, if you're not afraid to die, follow me. The team members actually looked ready to die. On the other side, Harper was clipped by the tail, flying dozens of feet into an overturned bus, knocked unconscious. The abyssal serpent coiled lazily, its eyes full of amusement. To it, these humans were just ants it could crush with a flick. Boring. Are humans in this world this weak? No fun in killing them. But the next moment, it saw a man walk out from the shadows, walking step by step toward it. Slow, completely unthreatening. The dust hadn't settled. Firelight reflected on my face. The serpent lowered its head, staring at me. Could sense my cultivation. Peak foundation stage. An ant in its eyes. Yet it felt a chill deep in its soul, like something carved into its mind, making this man look familiar. But a mere foundation stage? No match for its centuries of power. Another one seeking death. I said nothing. Energy spun wildly in my core, flowing in a pattern, far beyond my current stage. A secret art I created in my past life. Nether Strike. A supreme Lord Killer move. Nether Strike. A supreme Lord Killer move. Guided by soul power. Using worldly energy as a blade, gathered in one finger. One strike, like the underworld flooding over, destroying all life. Using peak foundation energy to drive this art was like fitting a river into a bowl. The body would suffer massive backlash. But could I pull it off? The key wasn't the amount of energy, but the depth of insight. 300 years of insight, plus the system's past infusions. Deep enough. The serpent grew impatient. His tail swung over, with terrifying force that could smash a mountain to rubble. I dodged at the very last second. The tail grazed my clothes and smashed into the ground. The ground collapsed into a crater for hundreds of feet. I flipped 3 times in the air to steady myself. Before landing, I extended my right index finger. A speck of eerie blue light gathered at the tip. It wasn't the brilliant glow of spiritual energy, but a deep, dark light, like ghost fire burning in the abyss. The serpent's pupils shrank sharply. I sensed it. In that tiny, almost negligible speck of light, lay a terrifying power enough to obliterate it, past and present lives included. Impossible. You're just at the foundation. Before it could finish, I pointed my finger. Nether Strike. A beam of eerie blue light shot from my fingertip, whining sharply as it pierced the air. It didn't sound like moving light, more like space itself tearing apart. The beam was too fast for the naked eye. The light reflected in the serpent's eyes. Then its head exploded. Black blood rained down like a waterfall. The massive body lost control and fell from the sky, crashing into the streets, kicking up dust for hundreds of feet. A nascent soul demon, obliterated with one finger. I landed, but my right arm was shaking. The backlash of forcing a high-level art. Tiny cracks appeared in multiple veins. A trickle of blood leaked from my mouth. The surviving bureau members were dumbfounded. Ryder crawled out of the rubble, covered in dust, face full of disbelief. He just saw a young man, seemingly only at general rank, kill a nascent soul demon he couldn't last 30 seconds against with one finger. Since when did Bay City have someone like this? But before they could recover from the shock, the sky tore again. This time, the rift was bigger and deeper. The aura spilling from it made his blood run cold. Emperor-level demonic aura. A humanoid silhouette walked out of the rift. Yes, walked. Not crawled, not flew, not surged. But walked out calmly, with an elegance that looked down on all life. It was a monster with a human body. A male face, eerily handsome, skin pale as jade, but with vertical golden snake pupils. He wore pitch-black armor. A pair of giant wings covered in dark purple scales spread behind him, almost covering half the sky. Emperor-level monster, Astaroth. I stood there, feeling the terrifying pressure descending from the sky. Monsters of this level had barely appeared on Earth. And now one was here in the small Bay City. Ryder's face wasn't just pale anymore. It was deathly white. He had fought countless battles but never faced an Emperor-level being. Because on Earth, there was only one Emperor rank awakened in the entire country. And that person was at the northern front defending against another Emperor-level monster. In other words, Bay City had no power to deal with this thing. Helicopters still circled above, broadcasting the scene via satellite, back to the Bureau's national headquarters. The command room was dead silent. On the big screen, Astaroth looked like a descending demon god. Emperor level. Another Emperor level. Why Bay City? It's only a C-class defense city. Contact Emperor Cole at the northern front. No, it's too late. Everyone's eyes were glued to the screen. Astaroth looked down at the city ruins below, and the ant-like humans shivering in the rubble. He smiled, a smile of pure contempt. That energy pulse just now was somewhat interesting. His eyes fell on me. Did you kill my vanguard? I clenched my fists. My right arm still ached from the Netherstrike's backlash. The cracks in my veins hadn't healed. Not even at the nascent soul stage. My chances against a deity stage emperor monster were near zero. I was fully capable of using an art to escape. With Supreme Lord movement insights and foundation energy, I could at least escape his tracking range. But I didn't leave. Because there were people behind me. The unconscious Harper, the injured rider, and the bureau members who couldn't evacuate. And the countless civilians fleeing to the underground shelters. But Aunt Sarah, she might still be alive. If I die here, who will go to the dead city to find her? But if I run, what happens to the people here? Damn it, I was never a saint. In my 300 years of cultivation, I cheated, betrayed, and killed countless people. I did every wicked thing possible. But this is Earth, the place where I was born and raised. I just couldn't turn my back and run, while my people died. Maybe it was what Aunt Sarah taught me. Ethan, always have a conscience. Astaroth seemed annoyed by my silence. Aunt, you humans are nothing special. I descended to this realm by the order of the Supreme Being. I thought it'd be fun, but it's so boring. Supreme Being? What did that mean? Weren't these monsters dropping randomly from the rifts? They were ordered here? By who? I had no time to think, because Astaroth moved. Not just too fast to see. He literally vanished from my sight. The next second, he appeared right beside me. I asked you a question. An apocalyptic force slammed into my right side. A giant hand swatted my body. I shot out like a cannonball, crashing through countless buildings. Finally embedding into the fourth wall. I spat out a huge mouthful of blood. Several ribs broken. Organs shifted. Veins ruptured. Is that all? Astaroth's voice came from afar, full of disappointment. I pulled myself out of the crater in the wall and stumbled to my feet. My vision was blurry. My mouth was full of blood. But my mind was clear. Mid-deity stage. With my current power and condition, a head-on fight was impossible. But who said I had to fight head-on? I wiped the blood from my mouth and smiled. Astaroth raised an eyebrow. A dying man was actually smiling. He didn't rush to attack, seeming to want to see what other tricks this ant had. I began burning my lifespan. It was a forbidden art. At the cost of overdrawing my life. To unleash power far beyond my limits for a short time. Normal cultivators could only jump a minor stage or two. But I wasn't normal. My core vessel was Supreme Lord level. My insight was Supreme Lord level. I just lacked energy. And burning lifespan perfectly converted life force into energy. Trading life for power. Risking it all. In my core, a boiling power erupted like a volcano. Cultivation. Early, mid, peak golden core. Early nascent soul. Still rising. Mid, peak nascent soul. This was the limit. Any higher wouldn't be burning lifespan. It would be self-destruction. Peak nascent soul against mid-deity stage. A gap of a whole major stage and two minor ones. It still looked like certain death. But it was enough. Enough for me to strike that one sword. I gathered all my energy, channeling it all into my right hand. An illusory longsword formed in my palm, looking exactly like the Rainblade, completely transparent, glowing with a faint silver-white light. This was my past life's signature sword art, Starfall, at the cost of attack range, focusing all power into a single point. One strike like a falling star, unstoppable. Astaroth finally sensed something was wrong. He felt the terrifying power within that illusory sword. It wasn't nascent soul-level power. What the hell was it? A look of horror finally appeared on his face. But it was just surprise. As a deity stage monster, how could he not have a trump card? But just as I was about to strike, the sky tore open. Not a spatial rift like before. The entire firmament was ripped apart. Time on Earth seemed to freeze. A galaxy spanning the sky burst forth from the heavens. Dazzling starlight like a silver waterfall poured down from the highest heavens. I will never forget the feeling of that moment. The pressure surging from that galaxy was so vast it brought despair, so terrifying it made souls tremble. Everyone was pinned down, unable to move. Ryder fell straight to his knees, spitting blood. The unconscious Harper's body spasmed uncontrollably. Normal people fainted miles away. Even Astaroth, a deity-stage emperor monster, had a look on his face, a fear seeping from his very bones, because he knew what level of power this was. Not deity, not void. He recognized this aura, the highest level of power in this universe. From within the galaxy, a figure slowly walked out. At that moment, the helicopter signal to National HQ went dead. Just like that, as if some invisible force sliced it right off. Not just here. Earth's entire network, satellite comms, and electromagnetic signals, all down. Every screen turned to static. Every radar went blank, like someone hit mute on the whole planet. And from the galaxy, a figure walked out on the starlight, wearing a dark demonic robe, black and red patterns, flowing like burning blood, hair white as snow, gleaming with cold silver in the starlight, face pale, almost transparent, too ethereal for this world, a crimson demonic mark on her forehead, like a third eye, or an eternally blooming blood flower, cold, violent, insane, yet carrying a heartbreaking loneliness. She floated in midair. Her demonic aura dyed the sky dark red for hundreds of miles. Her eyes swept over this strange steel jungle. Skyscrapers, highways, cars, lights, things completely alien to her. Then she looked down, saw the ruins, the blood, Astaroth, and finally me, covered in blood, barely standing in the mess. Time seemed to stop. We locked eyes, across thousands of feet, across the space and time of two worlds. Her eyes held shock, surprise, and an indescribable emotion too complex for words. I saw that emotion 300 years ago when I first met her. When she was 5, when I carried her out of that hut. The first time she opened her eyes and looked at me, it was this exact look, like seeing a beam of light in an abyss of despair. Under this apocalyptic pressure, Astaroth couldn't even stand. His legs shook. His eyes were full of fear, a fear born deep within the soul. Not something he could resist with power, because they weren't on the same level. He wanted to speak, beg, threaten, run, anything, but he couldn't even open his mouth. Chloe didn't even look at him. Her gaze, from the moment she saw me, never shifted away. Then, a flash of sword light spilled from the galaxy. Just a faint flash, like the lightest stroke of ink, pierced through space, through Astaroth's domain. His demonic shield, his physical defense, pierced everything. Astaroth froze. Then, like a shattered mirror, he disintegrated. Not even ashes remained. A deity-stage emperor monster. Didn't even get a direct look from this mysterious woman. Erased like a crushed ant. Of all the survivors, no one dared to speak. Not that they didn't want to. They couldn't. Crushed by that supreme lord pressure, even breathing was a luxury. Ryder lay on the ground, his bones creaking, feeling like he was being flattened into a pancake. He struggled to look up through blood-blurred eyes. He struggled to look up through blood-blurred eyes, looking at the figure in the sky. What kind of monster is this? This isn't emperor level anymore. This is beyond any rank he knew. And Chloe finally moved. She descended from the sky. I smelled her scent. Still that cold fragrance of winter plum blossoms. 300 years. She hasn't changed at all. I lay weakly in the ruins, covered in blood. Looking at her in a sorry state, I forced a smile. Chloe. She knelt down. The Grand Demon Queen, a supreme lord, knelt in the ruins and rubble, knelt before me. She frantically poured energy into my body. Her hands shook. Her tears, from that pale, cold face, that hadn't shown a hint of weakness in 300 years, rolled down. 1 drop, 2 drops, then countless more, like a cry suppressed for far too long, finally breaking the dam. Do you know how long I've looked for you? Time rewinds to the cultivation realm, to when my soul faded. The moment the system sent me back to Earth. She cried on Winterspire Peak for a day and a night, until her tears dried and her voice went hoarse, completely hollowed out. The truth she saw in the Elder's memories, and the weak apology from the Rainblade, stabbed into her heart like 2 blades. 300 years of hatred, 300 years of malice, collapsed in an instant, replaced by an emotion 10,000 times more painful than hate. She killed the man who always protected her, killed the man who pulled her from the abyss, and guarded her in the dark for 300 years. I don't want an apology. I want you. But he was gone. That gentle voice, that hand that always ruffled her hair, the man who held her in the blizzard and said, "Don't be afraid," faded away, like a wisp of smoke. She thought of following him, holding the Doomblade against her neck. 1 quick slash and it's over. Then she could go find him. But just then, a voice echoed in her mind, old and deep. like a voice spanning endless ages. He is not dead. Chloe's hand trembled. She almost dropped the sword. He just went to another realm. Do you want to find him? Yes, of course. To the ends of the earth, to the edge of the galaxy. I will find him, even if it costs my life. So she made a crazy decision. She abandoned the demon realm, abandoned the empire she built, her countless followers, and her supreme power in the cultivation realm, left it all behind. She only wanted to find Ethan. With her supreme lord power, she tore through the realm's barrier and stepped into the vast galaxy. But the galaxy is endless. Realms are like grains of sand. Countless. How could she find him? No direction. No clues. Only a vague guide left by that voice. Following the thread of karma. The thread of karma. The 300-year bond between her and Ethan formed a faint karmic thread across realms. As a supreme lord, she could barely sense its direction. So she chased it, realm after realm. Every realm jump in the galaxy came with terrifying spatial turbulence. A force that could tear apart a mighty cultivator's body and soul. Even a supreme lord like her wasn't spared. On her first jump, her right arm was torn off. Blood turned into a red mist in the void. She gritted her teeth, reattached it, and kept going. On her second jump, she stumbled into a barren realm, deemed an invader by that world's will. Facing apocalyptic rejection, struck by heavenly lightning. She tanked it, but a third of her veins shattered. Third time, fourth time, fifth time, countless times. Every jump was a gamble with her life. In a realm called the Chaos Sea, she was ambushed by 3 ancient supreme lords. The rules there were brutal. Survival of the fittest. She fought 3 supreme lords alone for 7 days and nights. She won, but was half dead. Her demonic marks shattered. White hair dyed red with blood. Her majestic demon queen robe was in tatters. She just floated in the void of the Chaos Sea, covered in wounds, fading in and out. But she didn't stop, because that karmic thread was still there, faintly guiding her. In one direction, further and further away. She kept going, realm after realm. Time in the spatial turbulence was distorted. Maybe only a few days passed on Earth. But for her, it was a full 1,000 years. Alone, she traveled through the endless galaxy and realms for a millennium. In those 1,000 years, through countless life and death battles, her power was honed to the absolute peak of a supreme lord. In those 1,000 years, her face didn't change at all. But the light in her eyes did. No longer hatred, no longer madness, but a borderline paranoid obsession. Find him, must find him, no matter the cost. One day, in the 1,000th year, the thread suddenly grew stronger. So strong her entire soul trembled. She tore open the final realm barrier and saw a blue planet, sensed an aura so familiar it made her want to cry. Then she saw him, covered in blood in the ruins, dying, facing a deity stage monster. He could have run away at any time, but stood there like an idiot, ready to fight to the death. Just like before, always like this, always pushing himself to the brink of death. At that moment, the tears she held back for 1,000 years finally broke. Ethan, why did you lie to me? Please don't leave me. I wanted to answer, but I couldn't speak. My body was giving out. Astaroth's strike shattered most of my organs, plus the backlash of burning my lifespan. Right now, I was like a dying candle. Astaroth's strike shattered most of my organs, plus the backlash of burning my lifespan. Right now, I was like a dying candle. My mind was blurring, my vision fading. The last thing I saw was her red, tearful eyes, and the crimson demonic mark on her forehead. When the broadcast came back, all anyone knew was that the Emperor-level monster was instantly killed by a mysterious force. Besides a few surviving Bureau members, the mysterious young man and the white-haired woman were gone. Ryder shakily got up, looking at the healed rift in the sky. His lips trembled for a long time before he squeezed out a sentence. What kind of monster was that? I was woken up by warm liquid dripping on my face. I opened my eyes. Dim light, a wooden ceiling. The air smelled of fresh grass and trees, mixed with that familiar, cold plum blossom scent. I turned my head. Everything hurt. Bones, organs, veins. Not a single part didn't ache. But at least I was alive. Then I saw her. Chloe was lying beside me, head resting on the edge of the bed, white hair scattered everywhere, framing her pale face. She was asleep, tear tracks still on her face, looking like she cried herself to sleep. Her hand, slender, almost transparently white, gripping my sleeve tightly, so tight, like she was afraid I'd fade away again if she let go. I watched her for a long time, until the light outside turned from dim to bright. This was a small cabin, walls made of logs. A window, a bed, a simple table. A dense forest outside. I could hear birds and a stream. Far from the city, far from everything. She must have conjured this. For a supreme lord, creating a cabin out of thin air was no big deal. I tried to check my body. The bit of cultivation I got back from burning my lifespan was all used up fighting Astaroth. Now I was back to being a low-level cultivator. But Earth's energy was slowly seeping into my body, nourishing my damaged veins and organs. Slow but definitely healing. I looked down at Chloe. Her demonic robe had many tears. Not from fighting Astaroth. More like wear and tear from traveling through harsh environments. She had several healed scars on her hands. How could a supreme lord have scars? Unless the wounds were so severe that even a supreme lord's healing couldn't fully erase them. I didn't know what she went through, but just those scars were enough to make me afraid to imagine. She woke up, probably felt me watching her. Her eyelashes fluttered. She slowly opened her eyes and met my gaze. We just looked at each other quietly. Then she sat up abruptly, completely flustered. The Grand Supreme Lord Demon Queen, blushing right now. So panicked she didn't know where to put her hands. Why, you're awake. Yeah. Are you hungry? I'll go. Chloe. Her body stiffened, like she was frozen. After a long while, she slowly turned her head, tears shimmering in her eyes. You know everything. She didn't speak. She just slowly squatted down, squatting by my bed, burying her face in her arms, her shoulders shaking. I was bad. I was wrong. I shouldn't have hated you. I killed you. I deserved to die. I reached out and put my hand on her head. She trembled, then froze. Seemed this touch, the feeling of this hand on her head, awakened a distant memory. 300 years ago, whenever she woke up crying from a nightmare, I would put my hand on her head like this and say, "Don't be afraid. I'm here." Now 300 years have passed. My hand was still in that same spot. She cried, from muffled sobs to uncontrollable wailing. 1,300 years of grievance, regret, longing, and fear, all poured out at this moment. I didn't speak, just stroked her hair over and over, just like before. She cried for a very long time, until the sun outside slowly set. When she finally cried enough and looked at me with red, swollen eyes, my sleeve was soaked with her tears. Ethan. Yeah. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I couldn't. Some things can't be said until the end. Is it that thing called the system? How do you know about the system? I saw it during the soul search. In that elder's memories. There were scenes of you talking to something invisible. Though I couldn't see it. I could feel you taking orders. Yes, the system. The thing that threw me into the Cloudfall realm. It gave me missions. Finish them and I could return to Earth. Back to my world. All the missions. Betraying the sect. Allying with demons. Stealing the sword. Even dying by your hands. It arranged everything. Then, what you did for me. Saving me. Protecting me. Leaving me opportunities. Those weren't the system. I did those myself. Every single time. Her tears were about to fall again. I quickly added, "Stop crying. If you keep crying, I won't have any dry clothes left." She let out a laugh but held it back halfway, turning into a weird, half-crying, half-smiling expression. So ugly, but also so beautiful. We talked a lot after that. I told her everything. The system, the crossover, Earth, Aunt Sarah. Everything. She listened quietly without interrupting. After hearing it all, she stayed silent for a long while. Then she said something that surprised me. That voice. The one that guided me to find you. What if it's also part of the setup? What do you mean? I traveled through the galaxy for 1,000 years. I traveled through the galaxy for 1,000 years. Every time I tore a realm barrier, it drained massive power. And every tear made the wall between the two worlds thinner. If something wanted to use me, to open a path between the two worlds, that voice was the perfect bait. A chill ran down my spine. She made sense. Too much sense. That mysterious voice guiding her. Old deep like it came from ancient times. If it wasn't kindly pointing the way, but guiding her on purpose. What was the goal? Making a supreme lord like Chloe constantly tear the realm barriers, to open a path for some entity to descend on Earth. This theory gave me the chills. But now wasn't the time to dig into this. The priority was finding Aunt Sarah. I told Chloe the situation. She mentioned something. When I first arrived on Earth, I scanned thousands of miles with my senses. This West Bridge you mentioned. The surface is overrun by monsters, but there's human presence underground. Still alive. Are you sure? Yes, though blocked by some energy barrier. My senses pierced through. There are at least 1,000 people down there. Is she? I don't know your aunt. I couldn't tell. But since people are alive, there's hope. Hope. At that moment, that word worked better than any miracle cure. For the next few months, I healed and cultivated in this cabin. Chloe's power was suppressed to the void stage by Earth's will. She shielded 100 miles with her senses. No creature could enter. This decisive demon queen who ruled all demons now acted like a little wife caring for her mortal husband. Because I was practically mortal now, she cooked different meals for me every day, though she couldn't cook at all. Her food was basically toxic waste, but she wouldn't let me say it tasted bad. She changed my bandages, though she couldn't control her strength well, accidentally tying them so tight I winced in pain. She guarded me while I cultivated. Though she couldn't do much, she insisted on guarding, just sitting by my side all day long. Sometimes I'd peek at her. When she thought I wasn't looking, she'd reach out to touch my hair, then quickly pull back. With a stiff, I didn't do anything look on her face. This 1,300-year-old demon queen was really cute. Days went by. Earth's energy density far exceeded my expectations. My body kept absorbing energy. My cultivation climbed steadily. By the 3rd month, I reached peak golden core, equivalent to Earth's commander rank. The recovery speed was unbelievable. After all, the Supreme Lord vessel was there. I just had to fill it with energy. My body was mostly healed. It was time to go. Westbridge was about 500 miles from Bay City. It used to be a bustling coastal city, with millions of people. Now it was a dead city. Chloe and I looked down from the sky. The whole city was covered in monster nests. Skyscraper walls were crawling with black, fungal-like matter. Streets were piled with abandoned cars and unknown remains. The air reeked of rot mixed with demonic energy. Occasionally, monsters roamed the ruins, commander and king levels alike. But to Chloe, they were trash. The monsters we met along the way, whether commander-level mutant bears or king-level abyssal fiends, were all flicked to death by her. When we reached downtown Westbridge, she finally got a clearer sense. Half a mile underground, there's an energy-shielded space. We broke through the ground and drilled straight down. Half a mile down was a massive artificial space. A giant, repurposed underground lab. Dimly lit, but filled with makeshift shelters and living areas. And people. Thousands of them. They looked in terror at Chloe and me dropping from the hole in the ceiling. Especially Chloe. In her dark demonic robe, snow-white hair, and crimson mark on her forehead. To these normal people, she looked like an ancient demon. Awakened. Awakened invaders. On guard. A man in his 30s rushed to the front, wearing a uniform so dirty its original color was gone. Looking tired but sharp-eyed. Faint energy glowed on his hands. Commander rank awakened. Marcus, a former cop who awakened an energy-shielding talent after the invasion. It was his talent that shielded this underground city from the surface, hiding thousands of survivors from the monsters. But the cost was a massive energy drain. Right now, he looked extremely weak and pale, clearly running on empty. We're not enemies. Who are you? How did you get in? I'm Ethan. I'm looking for my aunt, Sarah Vance. She might be here. Marcus froze. Sarah? You mean the lady always asking about her missing nephew? My heart skipped a beat. She's here? Take me to her. Hold on. How exactly did you bypass my energy shield? Marcus stared hard at Chloe. Though she suppressed her power to the nascent soul stage, equivalent to a king-level awakened, Marcus still felt an indescribable pressure. His gut told him this woman wasn't simple, far beyond king level, because she was incredibly strong. I gave a brief answer. Marcus stayed silent for a few seconds. Eventually, he stopped asking. He led us through the underground tunnels. Twisting and turning, we reached a small room in the corner. Right here. I took a deep breath and opened the door. The room was tiny, just a cot and a chair. A woman sat on the bed. She was thin, way too thin. I pushed the door open. The room was tiny, just a simple cot and a chair. A woman was sitting on the bed. She was thin, way too thin. But I recognized those eyes. The ones that woke me up every morning growing up. The ones that tucked me in every night. The ones that looked at me during every parent-teacher meeting. It was always those eyes. Aunt Sarah. The moment she looked up and saw me, her whole body trembled. Ethan? It's me, Aunt Sarah. I'm back. She froze for a few seconds, then lunged from the bed, throwing herself into my arms, wailing. Ethan, you're alive. Where have you been? I looked for you for 3 years. I thought you were gone. She cried and pounded my chest. Not hard, but every hit struck my heart. I'm sorry, Aunt Sarah. I'm so sorry. Behind me, Chloe stood quietly. Watching this, her eyes turned red too. Later, when Aunt Sarah calmed down, I introduced Chloe to her. Aunt Sarah, this is Chloe. She's my cultivation partner. Oh wait, girlfriend. Chloe's eyes widened. What's a girlfriend? But she knew what a cultivation partner meant. Wait, when did she agree to this bad senior brother? But in front of my aunt, she couldn't argue. Aunt Sarah held Chloe's hand, looking her up and down, then smiled with teary eyes. So beautiful. Ethan is a lucky boy. Chloe's face instantly turned red. The Grand Demon Queen, blushing hard at a mortal aunt's praise. Mother. Aunt Sarah froze, then burst out laughing. Okay, good girl. Watching this, my heart felt warm. This was probably the warmest moment in 300 years. Aunt Sarah was safe. But the thousands of survivors in Westbridge couldn't stay underground forever. Marcus's energy was almost gone. The shield could fail at any moment. Once it did, the surface monsters would swarm in. We had to clear the monsters in Westbridge. Chloe and I would handle it. Chloe kept her power suppressed to the nascent soul stage. Anything higher would draw unwanted attention. Even so, the monsters in Westbridge were nothing but trash to her. We fought side by side. It took 3 days to wipe out all the monsters on the surface. Hundreds of them, big and small. Even the king-level monster nesting downtown was slain by our combined forces. Marcus watched from afar, his mouth opening and closing. What kind of monsters are these two? After the cleanup, I contacted Harper. Westbridge is safe. There are thousands of survivors to evacuate. Silence on the other end for a few seconds. What? You mean Westbridge? The S-Class restricted zone? Yes. Are you kidding me? There are at least 3 king-level monsters there. Even HQ doesn't dare send anyone. It's handled. Come pick them up. A long silence. Then a sigh. All right, I'll send some trucks. When Harper came to pick them up, she brought 20 military trucks. She saw Chloe and stared for a while. Then her look turned subtle. This woman with white hair and demonic marks. That suffocating pressure. It perfectly matched Ryder's description of the mysterious woman above Bay City. Perfect match. Harper didn't expose her, but the way she looked at me changed. From curious to scrutinizing. Who exactly were this man and woman? I told her to keep our existence a secret. She agreed. Thousands of survivors were safely moved to Bay City. I rented an apartment in Bay City and settled Aunt Sarah in. On her first day in the new place, Aunt Sarah sat Chloe and me down and nagged us about a bunch of things. Stay safe. Stop fighting all the time. Eat well and don't stay up late. Then she looked at me, then at Chloe. Ethan, this girl is really good to you. Don't let her down. Hurry up and get down to business. What business? What else? Get married. I almost did a spit take. Chloe's reaction was even wilder. She stood right up, blushing all the way to her neck. She stammered for a long time, couldn't even finish a sentence. A 1,300-year-old demon queen, nagged into babbling by a mortal ant. I held back my laughter, not daring to make a sound. After that, Chloe and I settled down in Bay City. She learned to use a phone, though she kept mixing up the texting app and the camera. She learned to use the washing machine, poured a whole bottle of detergent the first time. Suds overflowed and flooded half the balcony. She also learned to watch TV. Her favorite was Animal Planet, because those little monsters are so dumb. Sometimes she'd sneak up on me at night. When she thought I was asleep, she'd gently kiss my cheek, then quickly pull back, pretending nothing happened. But she didn't know I was awake the whole time. 1,300 years of longing. She was still so careful. Like she was afraid of scaring away something precious. The peaceful days didn't last long. The spiritual awakening accelerated. Earth's energy veins were like flipped switches, spewing energy like crazy. Anomalies occurred everywhere. Colored clouds covered the sun. Spirit springs gushed, and ley lines cracked. Scenes only seen in ancient times popped up one after another. Ancient cultivators hidden for millennia emerged. The apex peaks, Wormcrest and Mount Solitude. These legendary cultivation holy lands suddenly produced a bunch of hidden masters. Most were righteous, ranging from nascent soul to integration stage. But there was also a group of ancient demons sealed deep within Earth's ley lines. They woke up too. They were sealed by the righteous path in ancient times. Now the seals loosened due to the energy surge. The first thing they did upon seeing the light of day was seize energy veins and enslave mortals. The official bureau, facing these true cultivators, the official bureau, facing these true cultivators, was as fragile as paper. A void stage demon calling himself the Crimson Ancestor made the first move. He seized an energy vein near Bay City and slaughtered the station bureau squad. Harper led backup and was critically injured. Marcus risked his life to cover her retreat and lost an arm in the process. When the news arrived, Chloe and I were eating dinner. Aunt Sarah's braised ribs. I put down my chopsticks. Let's go. Chloe put hers down too. Aunt Sarah yelled from behind, "You haven't finished." "Sorry, Aunt Sarah. We'll eat the ribs when we get back." When we reached the energy vein, the Crimson Ancestor was sitting above it, absorbing energy. Around him lay over a dozen bureau corpses. Young faces, twisted expressions. They must have died in agony. The Crimson Ancestor sensed us and opened his eyes. He looked at my peak golden core energy. Then at Chloe, who reeked of demonic energy. He gave an amused smile. "Little girl cultivates the demonic path too?" He stood up, his blood-red robe flapping in the night wind, releasing his overwhelming void stage pressure. "Kneel and submit to me, and I'll spare your life." Chloe was expressionless. She glanced at him, just one glance, then said one word, "Die." She didn't lift a finger, didn't even cast any visible art or spell. She just released a trace of true Supreme Lord Demon Queen pressure. The Crimson Ancestor's smile froze. His body began to shake uncontrollably. Thud, he fell to his knees. His Tao heart shattered instantly under that pressure. A void stage before a Supreme Lord didn't even have the right to look up. "What exactly are you?" He couldn't even finish a sentence. Chloe pointed a finger. The Crimson Ancestor's body, along with his soul, turned to dust and scattered in the wind. Clean and thorough. No loose ends. I watched from the sidelines. Truly the Demon Queen. My junior sister. But Chloe pouted, seeming unhappy with that title. "Oh, right. Truly my wife." She pinched me hard, then proudly hooked her arm through mine. After this battle, Chloe and I wiped out the Crimson Ancestor's remnants. Those ancient demons who woke up with him were either killed or surrendered on their knees. And through constantly hunting monsters and absorbing energy from the veins, my cultivation recovered to peak nascent soul. Harper and Marcus witnessed the whole cleanup. Marcus's severed arm was casually reattached by Chloe. She used a bone-setting technique, common in Cloudfall, leaving Marcus dumbfounded. Harper finally couldn't help but ask, "Who exactly are you two?" I looked at Chloe. She looked back, giving silent consent. So, I gave Harper and Marcus a rough idea, leaving out a lot of details, just saying I came from another cultivation world, with power far beyond Earth's ranking system. Same for Chloe. They looked like they'd seen a ghost. In the end, Harper didn't report us. Instead, we made a private deal. She'd cover for us officially. I'd secretly handle threats the Bureau couldn't. Marcus became one of my few trusted allies on Earth. He wasn't strong, but he was honest and reliable. I started secretly guiding his cultivation. But some things can't stay hidden forever. A few days later, an old man showed up. White hair and beard, looking like a sage. His energy and physical presence. One of Earth's strongest cultivators. The apex sage. He was polite but blunt. "I'm not here to inspect. I'm here to warn." He looked at Chloe with deep concern. "Outsider. Your presence is accelerating the mutation of this realm's will. This is not a good thing. It's a sign that Earth's will is failing. If you don't leave when the will collapses, all life will perish." Chloe looked at him coldly, saying nothing. I stepped between them. "Senior, give us some time. I'll find out the cause." The apex sage sighed. "I've lived for 3,000 years. I've never seen the realm's will so fragile. If you don't find the truth soon, everyone in this world will go down with it." He turned and left. Chloe and I exchanged a look. A bigger storm was coming. Less than 3 days later, it happened. Deep in the ever-white ley lines, a terrifying demonic aura shot into the sky, melting the snow for 100 miles. The ancient guardian beast born of Earth's will, the nine-tailed fox, awoke. In human form, she was a stunning woman. 9 silver tails spread behind her like a fan. Peak integration stage, second only to a supreme lord. Sensing Chloe's aura, she showed up immediately. Not to provoke, but to question. "Outsider. Your presence is eating away at this realm's foundation. As Earth's guardian beast, I won't just sit and watch." A battle was inevitable. The fox was incredibly strong, her illusions unpredictable. Even though Chloe's power was suppressed to the void stage by Earth's will. Her Supreme Lord foundation was still far beyond normal. Their clash tore the sky apart for 100 miles. I backed her up, specifically countering the fox's illusions. My Supreme Lord soul perception let me clearly tell real from fake. During the fight, I noticed the fox had no killing intent. She held back her attacks, more like testing and warning us. I called Chloe to stop. Wait, she's not trying to kill you. Chloe frowned but pulled back. The nine-tailed fox panted, her silver tails drooping slightly. Indeed. I just wanted to see what this outsider was made of. Then came more trouble. The ancient glutton in the northwest desert awoke. Integration stage driven by the instinct to devour everything. It swallowed the energy veins of several small towns along the way, heading straight for Chloe's aura. Chloe and I teamed up to stop it. This fight was much more brutal than the one with the fox. The glutton was a pure combat beast, the unreasonable kind. Finally, I used my Supreme Lord insight to communicate with it, and managed to calm it down. Two ancient beasts, both guardians born of Earth's will. They didn't wake up to attack Chloe. They sensed that Earth's will. They didn't wake up to attack Chloe. They sensed Earth's will was being corrupted by an outside force, and instinctively saw Chloe as a threat. The fox told me something key. Earth's will wasn't failing naturally. It was being drained. Every time a spatial rift appeared, it took away a piece of Earth's core essence. And the time these rifts first appeared, she looked at me. Exactly 3 years ago, the moment I crossed over, Chloe and I locked eyes. Both of us looked grim. The crossover, the system, the missions, Chloe's 1,000-year search. All these seemingly coincidental events linked together, forming a terrifying picture. The system was never just a support tool. It used me and it used Chloe. Every time she tore a realm barrier, it was opening a path for some entity to descend on Earth. I told Chloe my theory. She stayed silent for a long time. That voice that guided me to you. What if it was part of the system too? The answer was obvious. I found it in a spiritual eye deep in the Pacific Ocean. A deliberately hidden spatial anchor. The aura on it was the exact mark the system left in me. It didn't disappear. It moved to the core of Earth's will, like a nail in Earth's lifeline, constantly draining its essence. The truth was out. The system's true identity was the will of the Cloudfall realm. Its power had been fading over billions of years. It needed to devour other realms' wills to survive. Earth became its target. I was its chosen pawn. It gave me the system and drove me with missions, making me build karma in the Cloudfall realm, then sending me back to Earth through death as an anchor. Chloe's 1,000-year search was the key. Every time she tore a realm barrier, she opened a wider path for Cloudfall's will. That mysterious voice was Cloudfall's doing all along. The moment I pulled the anchor, the sky changed. Above the Pacific, a golden rift tore across the sky, 10,000 times bigger than the path Chloe tore. An overwhelmingly despairing pressure poured from the rift. Not the power of any living being, but the will of an entire world. Manifesting and descending, Cloudfall's true form arrived. It had no fixed shape, just a golden chaos devouring light, covering half the sky. Every living thing on Earth felt that suffocating pressure. Mortals fainted. Low-level cultivators spat blood. Earth's will is at its end. Devouring this realm is my only choice. Chloe's power suppression vanished instantly. Earth's will was too weak to hold any chains. Her full Supreme Lord power returned. Her demonic marks glowed with a terrifying blood-red light. She gripped the Doomblade and stood by my side. Ethan, this time, I'm with you. The most brutal battle in Earth's history. The nine-tailed fox and the glutton charged out. The guardian beasts unleashed their final power as Earth's will neared destruction. The apex sage led all ancient righteous cultivators to form a defensive array. Marcus and Harper led the Bureau to evacuate civilians, holding off the tribulation beasts spawned by Cloudfall's will. But the true main battlefield belonged to only two people, Chloe and I standing side by side. 300 years together, 300 years as enemies. 1,000 years apart. Now, finally on the same side. Cloudfall's will try to break our resolve. It showed Chloe the full scenes of my past betrayals. Joining the righteous path. Allying with demons, deliberately luring her away. See? He used you. Chloe shattered the illusions with one strike. My love and hate are none of your business. It then showed me the bloody scenes of Chloe's 1,000-year slaughter. The sects she wiped out. The cultivators she killed, the galaxy she dyed red. See? She's no longer the junior sister you knew. I smiled. I know exactly what she is. I don't need your reminder. I may be a righteous Supreme Lord, but my wife is a demon queen. How good could I be? Cloudfall's attacks were overwhelming. The golden chaos was like a raging sea, crashing wave after wave. Each wave contained terrifying power enough to destroy a realm. I fought desperately to hold on. My Supreme Lord Soul framework resonated violently with Earth's energy. Those dormant insights, intents, and arts were pushed to the limit in this life or death moment. My cultivation skyrocketed. Void, integration, Mahayana, tribulation, until that long-lost threshold appeared before me. Supreme Lord, Chloe sensed my change. Without hesitation, she used her demon queen power to guard me, tanking Cloudfall's will alone, taking round after round of bombardment. Her demonic marks shattered. Blood dyed her white hair red. Her dark robe was torn to shreds, but she didn't take a single step back. Ethan, hurry! I closed my eyes. My soul resonated with heaven and earth. My past life's power and memories flooded back. The Supreme Lord me was back. As I opened my eyes, a silver-white longsword formed in my hand, flowing with the patterns of heavenly laws. It wasn't the Rainblade. It was my own signature divine sword, forged from my insight. The Supreme Lord and Demon Queen struck together. One white, one black. Two sword lights intertwined into a spiral, tearing through Cloudfall's chaotic true form. It let out an earth-shattering roar, and counterattacked madly. The battle lasted for months. Earth's landscape was rewritten. Oceans whipped up massive waves. Continental plates trembled. Finally, using my Supreme Lord insight as a lock, and Chloe's demonic power as a chain, we worked together to strip Cloudfall's essence from Earth, sealing it back into the Cloudfall realm, severing all paths between the two worlds. Cloudfalls will let out a final wail, as it was forced back to its own world. The cost was equally heavy. Earth's will exhausted its last essence in the catastrophe, fading into nothingness. The chains of the heavenly will were gone. From then on, energy flowed freely on Earth. Cultivators no longer had a ceiling. A true grand era of cultivation began. From then on, energy flowed freely on Earth. Cultivators no longer had a ceiling. A true grand era of cultivation began. After the war, Earth was devastated, but life remained. The Apex Age led the effort to rebuild order. Marcus was elected as the core figure of the new bureau. Harper broke through her bottleneck during the disaster, entering the deity stage. Mortals didn't fully understand what happened, but everyone remembered that day. The black and white sword lights intertwining in the sky. Aunt Sarah was safe and sound. After the war, she held Chloe's and my hands, nagging us to stay safe, then urged us to get down to business. Chloe actually blushed. I smiled and agreed. A month later at dusk, Chloe and I returned to the cabin in the woods, the one she conjured out of thin air when caring for me. The sunset filtered through the leaves, dyeing her white hair a warm gold. She leaned on my shoulder, unusually quiet. "Chloe, I'm sorry." Her body stiffened. She looked up at me. These were the words she waited 1,300 years for. Back in the final battle in Cloudfall, she gripped my chin and asked. I never said it. The apology left in the Rainblade didn't count since it was separated by life and death. "What did you say?" Her voice trembled. "I'm sorry for making you suffer." I reached out and ruffled her hair, just like 300 years ago in the Celestial Order. "And thank you for finding me." Chloe's tears fell silently. She didn't cry out loud, just gripping my sleeve tight, like she'd lose me again if she let go. After a long time, she mumbled, "You still owe me a wedding." I smiled. "Okay." A few months later, organized by Aunt Sarah, witnessed by Marcus, Harper, and a few close friends, a simple wedding was held in the mountains. Chloe wore a red wedding dress handpicked by Aunt Sarah. The demonic mark on her forehead no longer looked cold against the red. Instead, it looked like a blooming red plum blossom. She was so nervous she didn't know where to put her hands. A 1,300-year-old demon queen, acting like an 18-year-old bride. I held her hand and said something, very softly so only she could hear. "From now on, I'm not going anywhere." Her tears fell again, but this time with a smile. 3 days after the wedding, I sensed something wrong while cultivating. With the heavenly chains gone, the barrier between Earth and Cloudfall was extremely fragile. And above these two worlds, a brand new spatial path was slowly forming. The aura pouring from it was incredibly ancient. The energy density far exceeded Earth and Cloudfall combined. I probed it with my Supreme Lord senses. The sight froze me. An infinitely vast ruined divine palace. A chessboard sat on a stone table. Countless pieces on the board. Two side by side, black and white, glowed faintly. Inside the black piece was the entire Cloudfall realm. Inside the white piece was the blue planet of Earth. Two worlds, just two pieces on a chessboard. And there were thousands more. The stone chair by the board was empty, covered in dust, showing the player had left a long, long time ago. So long that even the palace turned to ruins. Ethan, what did you see? Chloe noticed my reaction and walked over. I stayed silent for a moment, then held her hand. Chloe, do you want to know what our world really is? She looked down at our intertwined fingers, then looked up, reflecting the light leading to the unknown. A smile slowly formed on her lips. Not the Demon Queen's cold smirk, but the smile of that junior sister from back then. Wherever you go, I go. I turned to Aunt Sarah. She stood at the cabin door, holding a robe Chloe left behind. Her eyes were red, but she smiled and waved. Don't keep your wife waiting. Remember to come back. I bowed deeply. Then, side by side with Chloe, stepped into the light leading to the higher realm. The moment the path closed, a laugh too ancient to trace echoed from deep within the palace, like the player finally waited for someone to flip the board.